Hello and welcome to my rapid review of the organelles of the cell. Today I'm going to be talking about the energy-related organelles within the cell, namely mitochondria and the chloroplasts. And energy transformation for cells is really important. Energy is the currency by which cells are able to buy and sell what they need to live. Now, this all starts, of course, on an ecological level with the producers. And producers typically, at least on the surface of the earth, are photosynthetic. They are photoautotrophs that are able to take the light energy from the sun and then use that to transform that into chemical energy for their own use, right? Or to make their own food, we say, through photosynthesis. In this view, we're looking at a 100-power view of plant cells. This is the aquatic plant Elodea. And within these plant cells, you can see the cell wall on the outside, which is a part of the cell that we've not yet talked about. Of course, the plant cell wall is made of cellulose. And then within that, there's a cell membrane, a plasma membrane, and the cytoplasm within contains numerous organelles. But the most visible of those organelles right now are these little green dots called chloroplasts. And it's within those membrane-bound organelles, the chloroplasts, that the magic happens, that the chemical reactions that transform light energy into chemical energy occur. Here's an electron micrograph of a chloroplast nearly 50,000 times, or 50,000 times enlarged. And you can see that within a chloroplast there are multiple membranes inside here. Really, that's all part of the same internal membrane system that you're looking at, folded back and forth to increase surface area. And there's a liquid that fills a chloroplast, a functional chloroplast, called stroma. And then there are these stacks of very thin discs called grana. Now the grana are actually made of these discs called thylakoid discs. And we'll look at a mock-up of this a little bit later in class. Perhaps this next picture shows that a little bit better. These thick discs, stacks of discs, think stacks of coins, are grana, and then the white liquid, the colorless liquid really, is stroma. And then there's an outer membrane to the whole thing as well. So you have an inner membrane system and an outer membrane system. Chromoplasts are similar to chloroplasts, but they're usually occluded by all that chlorophyll. So in the fall, when the leaves change color, as they are right now here in Lawrence, Kansas, it's not that the leaves are changing color, it's that the green color is going away and the colors that were always there are actually showing up. But those colors have actually gone through a chemical change as well. And so we are getting a change in those leaves, but the pigments that were necessary to make them were always present there in the leaf. Now, a little evolutionary theory. It turns out that in the history of cell theory, that we believe that maybe the mitochondria and the chloroplasts were endosymbionts. They were actually engulfed by larger prokaryotic cells, and instead of being consumed or perhaps even being a parasite within that cell, the relationship turned into one of mutualism, of mutual benefit. And you can see how that's possible with the chloroplast, where a cell that engulfed it might then have benefited from that little living cell within it, within a sac, a transport vesicle inside, or a food vesicle, being able to produce its own food, right? And so the bigger cell benefits from this as well, and the smaller cell gets a place to live. But also the same with the mitochondrion as well. And one of the reasons we believe this is both the chloroplast and the mitochondrion have a double membrane system. They both have their own DNA, which is unique among all the other organelles. None of the other organelles have their own DNA. The nucleus, of course, carries the DNA for the whole organism. They have their own ribosomes on the inside, and several other features that just make us think that it's very likely that what we have here is a relationship that co-evolved into a cell that went ahead and just copied all the components, including the endosymbiont inside, until what we have today is these mitochondria and chloroplasts. Now here's a computer view of a mitochondrion. You can see the outer membrane in kind of a turquoise green and the inner membrane in yellow. The inner membrane is all folded up in tiny little folds called cristae or cristae, and there is a matrix-like substance within the middle of those of that inner membrane. Here again, we can see the outer membrane on the outside, and then the inner membrane kind of all folded back and forth, and then the material in the middle is the cristae. And of course, you can see this mitochondrion is inside a region of endoplasmic reticulum in this cell. So the idea is that an intruder wrapped in a membrane becomes a symbiont. That finishes up our discussion of the mitochondria and the chloroplast. What I should say is that the products of the mitochondria and the chloroplast are the mitochondria produces ATP, which is a usable form of energy for the cell, chemical energy, and that the chloroplast produces glucose sugar ultimately, or various forms of sugar, I should say, really a G3P sugar that then can be made into glucose or other components and stored for the plant's own use. In the end, we'll get into a much more in-depth discussion of those chemical products in our discussion of photosynthesis and cellular respiration. So thanks for watching today.